The first time Sienna took my flannel jacket without asking, I assumed she'd return it within the hour. That was 9 months ago. I stopped counting after the third time I spotted it hanging in her room, still warm from her shoulders, still smelling like her shampoo instead of mine. I'm 28. I rent the top floor of a Craftsman duplex in Northeast Portland and work as a data analyst for a freight logistics company, which means I spend 8 hours a day convincing spreadsheets to tell the truth. Before Sienna Vale moved into my second bedroom in January, I had what I considered a reasonable life. Organized kitchen, quiet mornings, a flannel jacket that lived on the hook by the front door and smelled exclusively like me. She answered my Craigslist post with exactly 2 questions. Did the building have a washer and dryer in unit? And was I the kind of person who ran the dishwasher when it was only half full? I told her yes to the first and admitted I had been known to run the dishwasher prematurely, but that I was working on it. She moved in the following Saturday. She was 26. She shot freelance photography, architecture, interiors, the occasional album cover for local bands. She arrived with 4 boxes of camera equipment, 2 of clothes, and a milk crate of vinyl records she said were non-negotiable. She set up a small developing corner in the second bathroom I'd been using for storage and asked if that was okay after it was already finished. I said it was fine. It was. Within 3 weeks, she had printed 8 photographs of the apartment, morning light through the kitchen window, the jumble of shoes by the door, my coat rack, my coffee mug on the wrong side of the sink, and taped them to the refrigerator without asking. I came home on a Tuesday night to find my own kitchen curated. The mustard was cropped out of frame. I, apparently, was not. That's a copyright violation, I said. I didn't sign a release. It's art, she said, not looking up from her camera. You're incidental. I'm the subject. You're atmosphere. Living with her was easy in the way that slightly dangerous things sometimes are. She made tea in the mornings and left a mug on the counter for me without asking if I wanted one. I learned she got migraines when she didn't eat enough in the afternoon and started keeping crackers in the desk drawer nearest the door so she'd find them when she came home. She knew I hated the smell of bleach and bought unscented cleaning products the week after she moved in. I knew she got quiet on days she turned down a job she needed but couldn't bring herself to take, and I stopped asking what was wrong because she didn't want to be asked. I'd just order from the Thai place she liked and put it on the coffee table without ceremony. We weren't dating. We had never come close to that conversation. I had gone on 3 dates in the 9 months since she moved in, none of which made it to a second. My coworker Derek said it was because I'd already found what I was looking for and was too stubborn to say so. I told him he needed a hobby. The night things shifted was a Wednesday in late October. Portland had been threatening rain all week and finally delivered something closer to a grudge. I was reviewing project files at the kitchen table when Sienna came through the front door, so wet her dark hair was flat against her cheeks. She'd been at a shoot 2 miles away and apparently declined to check the forecast. "Tell me you have a towel," she said. "Bathroom. Closer option?" "Coat rack," I gestured without looking up. "My jacket's there." "The flannel?" "Unless you've already moved it to your room." She made a sound that was almost a laugh and grabbed it off the hook. When she came back, she'd pulled it over her damp shoulders like a robe and dropped into the chair across from me. A puddle formed under her rain boots. I noticed. I didn't say anything. "The Kowalski shoot went long," she said. "How long?" "The kids cried, the dog bit the dad, and then the dad cried." She pushed wet hair off her forehead. 3 hours long. "Did you get anything usable?" "The crying shots are actually beautiful." She pulled the jacket tighter around herself. Her fingernails were pale from cold. "I need hot food." "There's leftover chili." "From when?" "Monday." "That's within the window." I heated it while she went to change. When she came back, she was wearing leggings, thick wool socks, and the flannel jacket still, which she hadn't taken off. I set the bowl in front of her and sat down with my own. "You kept the jacket." "I'm still cold." "You could put on a sweatshirt." "This is warmer." "It's mine." "I know." She wrapped both hands around the bowl instead of answering. "Thank you for the chili." That was usually how it went with her. She didn't apologize. She redirected. I had learned to find it funny instead of aggravating, which probably said something I wasn't ready to examine. We ate. She asked about my project at work, which she didn't fully understand but always asked about anyway. I explained a new routing algorithm in plain language, and she nodded in the places that seemed correct. I told her about Derek's escalating feud with the office coffee machine. She laughed at the right moments and stole the last piece of cornbread from my plate without breaking eye contact. You are genuinely without shame, I said. The jacket counts as collateral. That is not how collateral works. My interpretation is different from yours. Outside, the rain got louder. The lights flickered once, then again, and then the whole apartment dropped into silence. The refrigerator stopped humming. Rain against the old windows was suddenly the only sound. I found the candles before she did because I knew where they were. She found my phone flashlight first and pointed it directly at my face. Helpful, I said. Ambience. I lit 3 candles on the kitchen table. The apartment turned amber and close. Sienna sat with her chin on her folded arms, watching the flame instead of me. She'd wrapped the jacket tighter. Her socks were the kind with individual toes. I had given her grief about those socks for 6 months. This feels cinematic, she said. It's a power outage in Portland. Those are not mutually exclusive. She looked up at me. The candlelight made the shadow under her cheekbone sharper. Can I tell you something? I felt the question differently than she probably intended it. Sure. Rosa says I have a problem. Rosa was her college friend, currently in Seattle. What kind of problem? She says I talk about you too much. I kept my voice carefully neutral. How much is too much? She knows about the cornbread thing. Sienna gestured vaguely. And the crackers in the desk drawer. And the specific sound you make when you're annoyed at a data set, but don't want to admit it yet. What sound? She made a low hum through her nose, a single flat note. It was accurate. That was the unsettling part. I didn't realize I did that, I said. You do it every time. She paused. Rosa thinks I should either do something about it or stop calling her to describe it. The candles were the only light between us. Rain hit the windows in waves. I had several responses ready, all of which involved retreating towards something safer. A joke, a deflection, a request for context I didn't actually need. Before I could use any of them, her phone lit up on the table between us. Rosa's name and a message preview. I'm just saying at some point the jacket is a metaphor, and you should probably say that out loud. Sienna grabbed the phone so fast, she knocked the spoon off the table. Too late. I looked at the jacket. She looked at me. It's cold, she said. It's October. The jacket is warm. Sienna. She set the phone face down. Outside, a gust drove rain against the glass. She was quiet in the specific way I'd learned to read, not sulking, but working something out. I like being here, she said finally. I like this, coming home to, all of it. She moved one hand in a small circle that seemed to mean the candles, the kitchen, me. I didn't want to make it weird. Is it weird right now? A little, she almost smiled, but not badly. I had been in one serious relationship before. 2 years in my mid-20s ended the way those things end when 2 people slowly become strangers in the same apartment. After that, I'd been careful. Careful about who I let close. Careful about building something that depended on shared rent to hold together. But Sienna had been in my kitchen for 9 months. She had borrowed my jacket 11 times. She had left tea on the counter for me. On mornings she had early shoots and wasn't there to see me drink it. I was already in it. I had been for a while. Rosa's right that the jacket is a metaphor, I said. She went still. I didn't know that when I said you could take it, I continued. But I think I knew by the 4th or 5th time, and I kept putting it back on the hook anyway. Sienna looked at me across the candles for a long moment. How long have you known? 3 months maybe, 4. Something shifted in her face, quiet and unguarded, in a way I hadn't seen from her before. She looked younger and more serious at the same time. That's not nothing. No. She reached across the table and picked up the spoon she'd knocked off, turned it over in her hands. I moved in 9 months ago. I've been talking about you to Rosa for 8 of them. She stopped pretending it was normal roommate conversation somewhere around month 3. What does she say? That I'm obvious. She set the spoon down. She's not wrong. The power came back with a mechanical shudder. The refrigerator hummed. The kitchen lights came on full and slightly harsh. We both blinked. Sienna looked at the lit room like it had interrupted something private. Well, she said. Yeah. She stood to clear the bowls. I stood to help. We moved around the kitchen in the same paths we always did, the choreography of 9 months of shared space, and something had changed inside it without either of us saying so out loud. She handed me the second bowl. Our fingers overlapped on the rim. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen, she said, meaning the conversation, meaning the text. Good. I held her gaze. I wasn't planning to let you. That earned a small, startled smile. First real one of the night. We cleaned up. She went back to her photo edits. I went back to my files, but the jacket stayed around her shoulders until she went to bed, and neither of us mentioned it. Things changed after that in the way that small things do, perceptibly and without announcement. She stopped taking the jacket without explanation and started asking, which was its own kind of answer. I started meeting her outside her studio on Fridays when she finished late. We went for ramen on Burnside once and walked home in the dark for 40 minutes, talking about nothing specific. It felt uncomfortably like a date. She told me that in her junior year of college, she'd nearly switched majors because her photography professor said she was technically strong, but emotionally distant. She proved him wrong by spending a semester shoot strangers in hospital waiting rooms. 6 of those portraits ended up in a gallery show. I told her about the year after my breakup, renting a studio apartment that was too small and too quiet, and going to work every day with the specific flat feeling of someone who had stopped expecting anything. She looked at me when I said that. That stopped, she said, not a question. Yeah, I said, it stopped. She was quiet for a moment. When? I thought about the tea on the counter, the crackers in the desk drawer, the jacket warming someone else's shoulders. Gradually, I said, and then all at once. She didn't look away. Okay. That was all, but it wasn't nothing. I found the envelope on a Thursday morning in November. It was half under the edge of her laptop on the kitchen table, angled like she'd set it down in a hurry. The return address was a photography foundation in San Francisco. I didn't open it. I made my coffee and left for work. She was at a shoot when I got home. I made pasta and left some in the pan. She came back around 8 standing over the stove, and didn't mention the envelope. By Monday, I knew I had to ask. The letter on the table, I said, while she was editing on the couch. Her hands slowed on the laptop. You saw that. I didn't read it. It's a residency. She kept her eyes on the screen. 6 months, San Francisco, starting in February. Did you apply? 6 weeks ago. She looked up, before the power outage, before any of that. I sat down in the armchair across from her. The apartment felt suddenly smaller. Did you accept it? I haven't decided. What's the deciding factor? She looked at me for a long moment. I was going to leave either way, she said quietly. Before last month, I mean. I'd already decided that. If things between us hadn't, if we hadn't, I was going to take the residency and put some distance between this apartment and whatever I was feeling about you. And now I don't know. She closed the laptop, which is actually worse. How is that worse? Because now I want something here that I can't. She exhaled. 6 months is a long time. It's not that long. She looked at me carefully. Are you asking me to stay? I thought about what I actually meant. I'm asking you not to go for the wrong reasons. She uncurled from the couch and came to sit on the arm of my chair, which was something she did when she was about to say something uncomfortable. What if the right reason is that I'm falling in love with you, and I'd rather be in San Francisco than watch you figure out whether you feel the same? She'd said it like she was reading a weather report. Clear, precise, slightly braced. My chest did something complicated. Sienna, you don't have to say it back. She stood again. I know you're careful. I know about the last apartment and the not building on shared rent thing. I'm not asking you to match it right now. I hear you. I stood too. But I'm not going to let you make a decision about February without knowing where I am. Where are you? I thought about the way the apartment had felt flat before she moved in. The gravity of Friday nights when she texted she was on her way home. The way I had started calibrating my own mood to whether she was having a good day or a hard one. Somewhere between terrified and certain, I said. She was quiet. That's not a non-answer, I said. That's the actual answer. She picked up her camera from the coffee table. She did this when she was nervous, just held it, and looked at me. I need to decide about February by the end of the month. Okay. That doesn't give you much time. I know. I reached across and rested my hand against the side of her camera against her hand. She let me. Don't decide anything tonight. She looked at where our hands overlapped. Okay. Neither of us moved for a while. She called Rosa that night. I could hear her through the wall, the pitch of her voice rising at the end of sentences, the way it did when she was talking through something difficult. I lay awake until almost 1 and didn't examine why. In the morning she made tea and left mine on the counter. I found it still warm and stood in the kitchen with both hands wrapped around the mug. The jacket was on its hook. She'd put it back. I thought about what that meant. I thought about it for 3 more days. She told me she was taking the residency on a Friday, not dramatically. She was looking at her laptop and said it the way you say you're going to take the freeway instead of surface streets. February 7th, she said. I fly out in the morning. I was in the kitchen doorway. How long have you known? Since Tuesday. She glanced up. I wanted to tell you in person. You've been here in person since Tuesday. I was getting there. She turned back to the screen. I'm not ending something that hasn't officially started. You know that. Then, what are you doing? She closed the laptop. I'm giving us a real chance, not the version where we live together and fall into something because it's convenient. The version where you drive across town on a Tuesday night because you want to, not because you're already there. She met my eyes. And I'll know you mean it. I wanted to argue. I had several arguments. They all felt under examination, like fear wearing the clothes of logic. This is a well-reasoned position, I said. I still hate it. I know. She almost smiled. That's how I know you're paying attention. She moved out on a Saturday in early February. Rosa drove up from Seattle with a van and a playlist that was aggressively upbeat in the way of emotional scaffolding. Rosa was tall, direct, and spent approximately 4 minutes assessing me before saying, "So you're the jacket situation. I've been called worse." She talks about you like you rearranged her furniture without asking. Rosa picked up a box. That's not a complaint, just a classification. Sienna appeared from the hallway carrying her developing equipment, spotted Rosa talking to me, and said, "Whatever she said, correct it downward by 40%. She said you talk about me a lot." That's accurate at full price. We carried her things down 2 flights. Box by box, her room changed. The photographs came off the wall and left pale rectangles on the paint. The milk crate of records went into the van. By afternoon, the room held only winter light and the faint smell of developing chemicals. I walked her to the van. She was wearing my flannel jacket over her coat. "You took it again," I said. "Evidence suggests it's mine. I let you borrow it." She looked up at me. Her eyes were bright in the February cold. "Keep choosing to," she said. I pulled her in. She fit against my chest the way she always had, which wasn't something I'd planned on noticing 9 months ago, and which I could no longer imagine not knowing. "Call me when you land," I said. "I'll text when I land. Call when I'm unpacked." Those are 2 different timelines. I'm aware. She kissed me once, brief and certain, and got in the van. I went upstairs. Her room was empty. On the closet shelf, she'd left one photograph, printed larger than her usual work, a shot I'd never seen. It was the kitchen. Candlelight, the power outage night. I was at the table with my hands around a mug. She'd caught me from an angle I hadn't known she was at, without the flash, just the amber glow. I looked in the photograph like a person who was exactly where he was supposed to be. On the back she'd written, "The jacket was always a metaphor. Thought you should have the evidence." 6 months is not that long, it is also not short. I learned which coffee shop near her residency had the worst Wi-Fi, and therefore guaranteed she'd call instead of text. She learned I did my grocery shopping on Thursday evenings and started sending me lists of things she was out of, which I would buy and mail, which was an objectively insane thing to do and which I kept doing. I drove down to San Francisco in April. 7 hours with 3 coffee stops and a mediocre podcast. She met me at her sublet door in paint-stained jeans. We went to a taqueria around the corner and sat outside in the spring sun and talked for 4 hours straight about nothing urgent and everything that mattered. I drove back on Sunday. In June, she flew up for a long weekend. We went to the coast. We argued about whether the clam chowder in the bread bowl at a place near Cannon Beach was worth the price. I said yes. She said we were paying for the ambiance. I said the ambiance was also good. She ate most of mine and ruled the ambiance acceptable. In August, she came back, not for a visit. She texted me from the airport at 6 a.m. Residency's done, landing at 8:40. Coming home. I picked her up. She was the 5th person through the terminal doors, the flannel jacket tied around her waist, and a camera bag on each shoulder. You still have that, I said. It made the cut. She kissed me in the middle of baggage claim, unhurried, in front of approximately 60 strangers. Then she pulled back. Rosa says hi. What did she classify me as this time? The long game. She picked up her bag. She means it as a compliment. We drove home through morning traffic. The Craftsman duplex looked the same. The jacket was back on the hook within 30 seconds of walking in. I had made coffee. I had put 2 mugs out, which was the most honest thing I'd done in months. She saw them. She said nothing. She picked up hers. I have something to ask you, I said. She set her mug down and turned. I could see her reading my face. I want to find a place together, I said. Not this apartment. Not wherever you'd find next. Something we choose because we want to share it, not because it's what's already there. I looked at her. I love you. I've known it since February when your room was empty, and it felt like the wrong kind of quiet, and I should have said it then, and I'm saying it now. She was still for a moment. Then she crossed the kitchen and put both hands flat against my chest, the way she did when she was checking a shot for light. I love you, she said. I loved you the first time I took your jacket, and you just quietly put it back on the hook for me to take again. I didn't do that on purpose. Yes, you did. I thought about it, maybe. She smiled against my collarbone. I held her there, in the kitchen we had shared for nearly a year, and the whole shape of everything felt settled in a way I had stopped knowing how to expect. We found an apartment in late September, first floor of a newer building in southeast Portland, east-facing windows for the morning light, a second bathroom she converted into a dark room within 2 weeks of moving in, a kitchen wide enough that 2 people could cook without the negotiating corners. Before we signed the lease, she made me stand in every room and say one true thing about why I wanted to be there with her. In the kitchen, because I want to make coffee for 2 people on purpose. In the living room, because I want to come home to you without pretending. I'm not glad you're here. In the bedroom, because I've been keeping your side of the bed clear for 8 months, and I'd rather just admit what that is. She kissed me before I finished the last sentence. We've been in the apartment for 7 months now. She has a studio in the second room. I have a desk in the corner of the living room. The flannel jacket lives on the hook by the front door, which is technically where it has always lived, and from which it is regularly borrowed by the person who does not own it. Last week, she came home late from a commercial shoot, cold from standing outside in a November wind for 3 hours. She walked straight past the hook. Jacket, I said. I know where it is. You walked past it. Heading back. She set her camera bag down, turned around, took the jacket off the hook. Then she held it out to me. I looked at her. What? Put it on, she said. It's my jacket. I know. She held it open. There was something in her expression I had no name for yet, only that it made me set down what I was doing and walk across the room. I put my arms through the sleeves. She smoothed the collar down. There, she said, like she'd corrected something. You're bizarre, I told her. It always looked better on you. She rose onto her toes and kissed me. I just needed to make sure you knew it. I put my arms around her. She tucked herself against my chest, and we stood in the entryway of the apartment we had chosen together, while November pressed against the windows outside. You could have told me that 9 months ago, I said. I needed the evidence to develop. She tilted her head back to look at me. I'm a photographer. It's a process. I laughed, and she laughed, and the flannel jacket stayed on my shoulders for the rest of the night, which was exactly where it turned out. It had always been meant to be.